Welcome to Literary AF Podcast.
Hello! Welcome. Sorry.
Oh boy.
I couldn't decide on a goof, so I just made my voice slightly weird.
Starting early.
Welcome to Literary AF. My name is Sheldon.
I'm Danny.
I'm Arlene.
And you are the lucky listener who gets to listen to us talk about Hunger Games Part 3, Mockingjay. How do we, intro this episode?
Heavy spoilers.
That's right.
We mentioned it at the end of last episode, but yeah, be forewarned. Yeah, there's
if you
no
haven't read these series, if you want to read them, don't listen to this episode until you're done reading. So, if you just have Mockingjay left, we'll see you in 4 hours, because it doesn't take long to read these books.
Yeah, no, it really doesn't.
But don't listen to this episode before you read the book, because we are getting heavy into spoilers. And actually, I want to start with a spoiler, because of what happened to me. So I borrowed this book from the public library.
Rip.
Oh.
And someone on the first page of chapter 1 writes right on the page, "Prim dies," with a smiley face.
The worst. Did you erase it at least?
I did. I erased it before I took it back.
How kind.
But and it's not like that was even a super shocking spoiler to me, because I was like, that would make sense for the last book in a series. But it was still the audacity to spoil it like that. Oh.
I mean, people were crowing about Snape kills Dumbledore less than 12 hours after that book came out, I remember.
Oh, I remember that, when there was videos of people driving past bookstores and yelling at the lineups of people waiting for Harry Potter books.
Yeah.
To be like, Snape kills Dumbledore.
Yeah. And these books they've been out for quite a while now, almost 10 years, if not more.
Oh, geez. We should have gave a spoiler warning for the Harry Potter series. One of the most popular series of the last 30 years.
We're monsters.
Yeah, we are. We're horrible. Well, let's talk about this book. Okay, this is kind of a strange book, because there are long stretches of it where it feels like nothing is happening,
mm-hmm.
and then all of a sudden it'll just be something wild will happen, and you're like, wait, what? So we're gonna skip through the plot. I don't know.
It's kind of easy to skip through the plot, because I would say the first third of this book is after the shock of being informed that District 12 is no more. Katniss, as well as a small amount of refugees rescued by Gale, are all brought to District 13, which has been around, they've just been existing underground. The Capitol is apparently quite aware of them. They just have an understanding between them, because District 13 was in charge of building their nukes.
Yeah, so it's essentially a Cold War situation where, the Capitol won't fight District 13, and District 13 won't destroy the Capitol, because they both have nukes, so they could just both obliterate each other, and basically what's left of the human race.
Right.
So District 13 lives underground in a giant military bunker. They are super strict about everything. They all have their schedules tattooed on their arms every day.
I assume that's they say tattoo, but washable tattoo. I'm imagining like a Sharpie.
I think they say they stick it in a machine, and then by the end of the day it fades.
It fades off when they take a bath.
Right.
Yes.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, a Sharpie.
But yeah, so to set the scene, that's where everyone is. That's where most of this book takes place, and Katniss is essentially dealing with her emotional just shock. And
also, she's still very mad that Peeta wasn't rescued.
Yes.
So, the beginning, I'd say the first third of the book is President Coin, who's in charge of District 13, who is the rebel leader, and she's totally a good guy, guys. She wouldn't do anything terrible. Even though she runs an oppressive regime, she's very nice. She is trying to get Katniss to be the Mockingjay, trying to get her to be the face of the rebellion. Katniss keeps trying to not do it, because she's not happy about Peeta. She doesn't want to leave Prim and the mom. She's so
she's messed up, man. Both Katniss and Finnick at this point are just absolutely undone. They're just wrung out as people, just suffering with the trauma that they've been through. So it's really especially impossible for Katniss to even think about it right now. And
And then PETA goes on the news, and he makes the comment, we should go for a ceasefire. And that makes everyone in the District 13 all mad. And they're like, let's kill PETA. And then Katniss is like, hey, I'll be your Mockingjay, but I want immunity for PETA and the rest of the victors.
Yeah. I mean, it should be clear they are... District 13 tells Katniss, just in passing, like off-screen, like most of the cool stuff in this book, that all of the districts now, except for 2, which is where the peacekeepers are trained, are all in open rebellion now against the Capitol. So they have stronger footholds in some than others, and they're actively fighting right now. So they want to use her to shoot like footage of her doing stuff to make their own counter propaganda sort of thing. And
the propos. A lot of this book is dedicated to making propos.
Yeah, yet again, Katniss, her entire life on screen, being used as a pawn for somebody else's ambitions. What a novel experience. And so she does eventually, like Sheldon said, she agrees with conditions, and then it's a lot of her struggling to actually be in that role. Eventually she does...
Well, first off, after she agrees, then they take her down to meet her stylists, who have been tortured in the basement because they are greedy Capitol folks who tried to steal bread.
Yeah, it really kind of, to me, emphasized that District 13, despite being a safe haven for everybody, is really... like, they're no different from the Capitol in the way that things are being run, like the tightly regimented routines, and everyone does their thing when they're told and how they're told, and it doesn't feel good. All of District 13 at no point feels comfortable, so it's very awkward. And
and it's kind of weird. Like, Katniss has to like petition to go outside and hunt, and she has to like she gets in trouble for not following her schedule, and she gets in trouble for not for trying to hide in rooms when she's feeling scared. Like, they try to control everything. So she gets redone by her makeup people. They try to film a thing. It goes really poorly because it's scripted. They decide, Katniss is best when she's just being spontaneous. So they send her to District 8, where there's a hospital filled with wounded people. They say there's no chance of an attack here because all the military targets here were already destroyed. Katniss meets with people in the hospital. They're like, hey, you're the Mockingjay. I like you. And Katniss is like, oh, cool. It's good to see you guys.
Oh, cool.
That is a direct quote. And then, sure enough, the Capitol are like, oh, we're going to bomb this place now because Katniss is here. Katniss and Gale are jumping on rooftops and shooting down planes with bows and arrows. I found that scene was fun.
I thought it was cool. I thought the resulting... the result is that Katniss they get footage to make a really convincing propo for Katniss, and she says a lot of really emotional and, I don't even know what to call it.
Yeah, after they bomb the hospital, Katniss is like, this is what the Capitol does, and then she says something like, you can burn our districts to the ground, but we're catching fire, and if we burn, so do you.
If we burn, you burn with us.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Yes.
After that, they go back, and... I can't remember. We should just skip ahead a bit. There's more PETA videos, but now PETA looks like he's being tortured and stuff. Katniss is still like, hey, we need to go rescue PETA. In the last PETA video, he looks really, really bad, and then he says something like, District 13 will be destroyed by morning. And then Katniss is like, that was a warning. PETA's warning us. They're going to attack us. And then Coin's like, no, they aren't. He's just being a guy. And then Katniss is like, no, I know PETA. And Haymitch is like, that was a warning.
I'm sorry. This is very good. This is very good, Sheldon. Please continue.
Very, very good theater.
Yes. I like the voices. Keep going.
Okay. So then they go to the basement, and sure enough, the place gets bombed for like 3 days straight. And Katniss is like, I don't like living in a basement while we're getting bombed. They decide to rescue PETA, but absent from this mission is Katniss. So while PETA is being saved from the Capitol in what's promises to be an exciting and daring and intriguing rescue mission, we're treated to Katniss looking around her room and feeling nervous.
Yeah, I can't remember why she was passed out at that point. like, the reason that she didn't go with them and the reason that they kind of wake her up and it's like, oh, hey, they went and rescued PETA is, like, she's in the hospital for some reason. I don't remember why. I don't know if either of you two remember. Danny, you just read this?
No, I didn't. We've said this.
I just read this yesterday. I know at one point she bruises her ribs, but I don't remember if it's then. I feel like they knock her out just to not take her.
I don't know. Anyways, small detail.
Yeah.
Katniss wakes up and Haymitch is there and is like, surprise, Peeta's here. They rescued him. And she goes to see him.
Isn't it because they go outside to film a propo after the bombs were dropped on District 13 and Katniss sees all the roses and she's like, Snow knows I'm here. And she like flips out and then they have to sedate her.
Yes, that's right. She relapsed and yes, they needed to sedate her because she...
Alright, so they save PETA and bring him back as well as Annie, who's Finnick's love, and Joanna. And it's a very happy reunion and at no point does anyone try to murder Katniss. Oh wait, wasn't there a bit with PETA?
Yeah.
Yes. While Finnick and Annie have a tearful and romantic and affectionate reunion, Katniss sees PETA and he immediately
strangles her,
chokes her out.
Yeah.
It was an intense moment.
Yeah, and it's funny because Katniss is so happy to see PETA, and then he does that, and then from that point on, Katniss almost like hates PETA and wants like doesn't trust him at all, wants nothing to do with him. It's very understandable. I'm not saying it's not, but it's there's a very sudden shift in Katniss's feelings. Next up is they go to District 2, which is the last major stronghold, and there's like a mountain where they're hiding inside. It's like a hollowed out mountain with all their war stuff.
Yep.
And Gale comes up with a plan to like basically set off a big avalanche, cover up all the entrances and vents to the mountain, and then like wait at the train tracks on the other side for them to like wait at the only escape kind of thing. That's what they do. Gale wants to just murder them all, and Katniss is starting to realize that her best friend is slightly genocidal.
I think it's yeah. Yeah, like, it was less that he's realizing that he's slightly genocidal, more that, like, Gale is very much about getting it done. Like, Gale in this book is upset and angry a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he and Katniss are finally getting close again, because now that they're in 13, like, they get special dispensation to go and train, quote unquote, in the woods by hunting together again. You know, they're talking to each other again. They kind of have some words about their relationship, but one way or another, they're getting close again. And now Katniss is seeing this other side of him, where now Gale is obviously angry, and he's being really no nonsense about it. But Katniss being Katniss, she's not hugely a fan of civilian casualties. Like, that's not a thing she's into. And so they butt heads about that a little bit. And I think the consensus was the plan where they wait outside the only exit, rather than blocking off all of the exits and just starve all the people in the mountain to death.
Yeah, so then there's like a big emotional scene where Katniss is appealing to this one soldier of two and is like, look, we're not the enemy. You guys are slaves to the capital just like us. It's like going really well, and then Katniss gets shot. And I remember feeling like that was kind of like a deflating moment in the book, because she's giving this really big emotional appeal, and then I watched on the screen as I got shot in the chest. And but it turns out it wasn't the guy she was talking to, it was some other guy in the background.
I mean, yeah. She's still... Yeah. It still brought things down pretty good.
So with all the districts united, Katniss has kind of outlived her usefulness as the Mockingjay, but now she wants to join the assault on the Capitol. She starts to get in her head that she has to be the one to assassinate Snow. And
no, she wants to. That was part of her conditions.
Yeah. Of
being the Mockingjay, is that she wanted to kill him. And she's still into that.
But I can't remember what spurred the whole idea that, like, she had to get to the Capitol, steal a hollow, and then go by herself to kill Snow.
That was later.
Yeah.
That was later on entirely. Like the first part is her just wanting to get on the team that was actually going to go fight because they were not going to let her.
They weren't going to let her at all.
Yeah, they were going to leave her behind, and she's like, hell no. And so her and Johanna, who is also like, you are not leaving me behind, start training together. And during this time too, there's mention of Peeta. He comes in and out a little bit. They're trying to reprogram him because at this point it's discovered that the Capitol has tortured him into, like, they've brainwashed him.
They've hijacked him with Tracker Jacker Venom.
Yes, they have hijacked him.
Yes.
Yes. So...
And, okay, one thing that I just want to mention, because it's kind of, like, persistent throughout the books, but in this part, there's, like, this whole thing of them, like, talking about, like, hijacking and, like, oh, it comes from an old English word that means taking something over. And it's like, I get what the author's going for, but I feel like it's so, like, kind of awkward to have, like, words that we know described to us.
Yeah, that was a little jarring.
Yeah. So they're trying to reprogram him, and he's kind of, like, he's getting better, but he still doesn't like Katniss at all. He thinks she's a mutation.
Yes. Yeah. But yeah, so but Joanna and Katniss start training and are eventually approved to join an actual squad, and go into the Capitol and fight.
Oh, except for Joanna. She isn't allowed to.
Oh, that's true. Joanna doesn't pass.
Yeah, she fails the test.
Yeah, but Katniss, and she's assigned to Finnick and Gale's squad, who are the sharpshooters.
Yeah, with Boggs and Cressida, I think, is there.
Yes.
Oh, Cressida is like the girl who films.
Yeah, Cressida is there. She has a film team that's been assigned to her for this whole book.
Yeah. Just
to shoot footage of her for the probos, and yeah, Cressida is in that team, and her cameramen Pollux and Castor, I believe it is. Yeah, I liked them a lot. But anyways, yeah, so they're assigned the sharpshooter squad, which after they get to the Capitol and start fighting, Plutarch likes to inform them that they're not actually going to be on the front lines. They're kind of like the show squad.
Yeah. So they're shooting glass out of, like, abandoned buildings and filming it to be like, look how good these guys are.
Yeah. Well, they're also taking out traps that have been left in the street too by the Capitol. They call them pods because
the pods.
It's essentially like another games arena where randomly there will be places where if you step or if something happens in that area, something will come out, like various things like tracker jackers will be released, or the ground starts sinking in, or any number of things.
Weird white lizard men.
Oh my god.
But yeah, so they're there. They're like, but yeah, they can't just shoot the traps, or else the Capitol will know that they know where the traps are. So they have to shoot, like, random objects and then shoot some traps as well.
Yeah.
So they're just basically clearing streets of these traps. When
one of the squad accidentally dies to one of those traps.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and then at that point, guess who comes in? It's Peeta for no reason.
Peeta. So Katniss automatically is like, Coin's trying to kill me. That's why she sent Peeta here. And I don't know if there's evidence of that, but Katniss is very convinced.
I mean, thinking about it now, was there any good reason for Peeta to be there at all?
No, definitely not.
I can definitely see where she got that.
Story-wise, there's a good reason to have Peeta and Katniss together.
I mean, yeah, that's fine, but yeah, like they're nope. she may have hit that one in the head. Can't tell, but he's there, and he is mostly okay.
But he has to wear handcuffs.
Yeah, and they keep guards on him all the time.
And he does this thing where he's like, oh, I can't remember which memories are real, which ones are implanted by the thing. So he'll, like, ask Katniss a random question, then be like, real or not real.
Yeah, that's a game they start playing with him, all of them together, because, I mean, Gale is there. There's, I think, someone else from District 12 as well. So they all start kind of talking to him to kind of help him come back to himself, essentially. Continue the reprogramming that they were doing in 13.
They also decide to send them to the front lines at this point. And it goes about as... it goes a lot worse than you could possibly expect, I'd say.
Yep, immediately Boggs, who is their squad's leader, his legs get blown off.
Yes.
And he dies terribly. And then another guy dies because he gets caught in a pod.
So it's...
No. I'm sorry. PETA goes nuts for some reason. He something triggers him and he starts trying to attack Katniss, and they try to restrain him, and he kicks one of the squad members into a trap, and that guy dies.
So Boggs, as he's dying, he gives the hollow, which is like the thing that shows where the traps are. He gives it to Katniss and says, do what you have to do. Go kill Snow. Don't trust PETA. Or
Casey says kill PETA.
Kill PETA and don't trust anyone. And so Katniss is like, okay. And then Boggs dies. The guy who was caught in the net dies because the net is lined with
razor wire.
Also, before that, they had talked about setting somebody to set off the trap by like getting the net to scoop them up, and then they would disable the trap. Because I remember them talking about it, and then talking about like who would be the volunteer, and PETA was the only one who didn't volunteer, and Katniss found that weird for some reason. And then, sure enough, it's got razor wire, so it's kind of a good thing they didn't go with that plan.
Yeah.
Then they're in a little like abandoned apartment building.
Because they run and hide, because at this point now, because the traps are getting triggered, the Capitol is sending people after them.
Yeah, so they've lost their squad leader, there's people after them, and they've lost some other random guy who I don't remember. Then the like second in command was like, hey, give me the hollow, and Katniss was like, no, actually I'm in charge now. And she makes up a story that Coin sent her to specifically assassinate Snow, and the second in command lady is like, I don't believe you. And then Katniss is like, no, for real. And then she's like, okay. They all just go along with it. They steal a bunch of food from the building.
Yep. They rest up, and then it's just kind of a slow, kind of stealthy kind of progress through. Oh no, it's the sewers.
They set off the wave of goo.
Yeah.
And that's what drives them into the building.
But once they're in the building, their Castor and Pollux are twins, I believe, brothers at least.
Is an
Pollux was an Avox. He can't speak, but apparently the Avoxes used to clean the sewers and do maintenance down there.
Yeah.
So that's where they escape to, because it's faster and easier to travel underneath the city, and
of course,
Pollux
and
can
nothing
help
can
them.
go wrong in the sewers.
No, there's not going to be any kind of anything down there that
Spoiler
remotely
alert.
resembles giant lizard people.
The clown from It was down there.
Pennywise worked with the lizardmen. So they're in the sewers. They're following the plan. I think it goes good for a day.
Yep.
And then peacekeepers start funneling into the sewers. Because the Capitol thinks that Katniss is dead because they bombed the building they were originally hiding in. And then as soon as they can't find Katniss's body, then they send people down to the sewers.
And more importantly, they send lizard men who start hissing her name.
And which makes PETA start hissing her name.
Yeah, which was that was also a super creepy part, just thinking about that.
That was a lot of fun.
That was terrible. And then they all run, and it goes about as well as you'd imagine. They manage to get to, I think it's like another service access point or something.
Yeah.
This part was really weird to me. I don't really know how they got out of the sewers.
I feel like they kept going down as they were traveling because to avoid more traps, but then all of a sudden they were like being chased by all these lizards and they had to get back up to the street. So they had to climb up like 3 different ladders. Because every time they were on the ladder, they got attacked by the lizards and somebody would die.
Oh, okay, right. Great, yes.
Our dear friend, a person who we love in this book, Finnick.
Who just got married.
Yeah, he's a pretty major character throughout the book. He gets killed in like a single paragraph of the lizards just like sweeping over him. And everyone dies. There's 5 people left at the end of this journey. It's Katniss, Gale, PETA, Cressida, and Pollux. Yeah. So they are out of the sewers. They need a place to hide because they're surrounded by Capitol people. They're now like in the center of the city. And Cressida knows one of the stylists who used to be a stylist for the games, who's on their side. So they go and hide with her, and her name's Tigress?
I said it
Tigris?
Tigris, but she is a lady who has made herself up to look like a kitty cat. She's got big long whiskers, and her skin has been pulled really taut on her face, and she purrs and has a tail and only eats raw meat.
Only eats raw meat, and Katniss thinks that is fishy. Oh.
Yep.
Finnick gets killed in about 2 sentences.
Do you have
I'm just
them?
looking at it right now, yeah.
Yeah.
Can you read it?
Far below, I can just make out Finnick, struggling to hang on to as 3 mutts tear at him. As one yanks back his head to take the death bite, something bizarre happens. It's as if I'm Finnick, watching images of my life flash by. The mast of a boat, a silver parachute, Meg's laughing, a pink sky, BT's trident, Annie in her wedding dress, waves breaking over the rocks. And then it's over.
What was that about?
Yeah, that's
That's just a weird cinematic scene that doesn't make any sense in the context of this book.
That's also
That works
what
in
I
a
thought.
movie, that doesn't work when you're a book from a point of view character.
Right. That's kind of what I thought.
I had flashbacks of his life as he died. Makes
Remember
no sense.
that time that Megs laughed at Finnick
Yeah.
that I never saw?
Remember that
She
time I
needed
ever
to-
saw a ship nest?
She needed to extend Finnick's death scene to more than 1 sentence. But that's literally it. It was 2 sentences
I
in the
thi-
middle of a paragraph.
You
It wasn't
know-
even its own paragraph.
She could have had him, like, fighting them heroically.
Yeah.
Like, putting effort into not dying.
Yeah. Maybe he could have been the one that held, like, the bomb at the end, and then he sets it off, like... But instead, Katniss sets off the bomb, drops it, and runs to, like, distract her, to blow the lizard's back. But anyway, so now they're hiding in the basement of a tiger lady.
Finnick deserved better.
Hashtag.
Hashtag
Agreed.
Finnick deserves better.
Agree. Justice for Finnick.
They're hiding in this basement, and nothing happens for a while. They decide they're going to sneak up with a crowd of refugees towards the president's mansion. They have this whole plan where, like, they're letting some refugees into the mansion, so they're going to sneak up. The 2 Cressida and Pollux, because they're from the capital, they can blend in better, so they're going up ahead. Katniss and Gale are all dressed up in all these clothes from the stylist, and they're going in the middle, and then Peeta's going way behind, and if they need a distraction, Peeta's supposed to basically just like, hey, I'm Peeta Malark, and then everyone's going to go for him and try to fight him.
Yeah, Peeta at this point is feeling really, really hopeless. He, more than once at this point, has either asked to die or wants to go off by himself because he thinks he's going to get everybody killed. Like, I really feel for Peeta in this book because, like, he has nobody. His family's all dead. He's all by himself, and he doesn't know what's real and what's not. He's had a bad time, so yeah, he disappears very quickly at this point.
Actually, things happen so quickly. Once they make this plan, they go outside. The people up front disappear right away. They can't find, or like, no, they can see them in the crowd, but then they lose them right away. Peeta's gone immediately. Gale and Katniss are walking down a street, and then something sets off a pod that, like, opens the ground up beneath them. Gale makes it to the sidewalk and then is immediately grabbed by peacekeepers in a house. Katniss makes it to the other sidewalk and, like, just runs because I think she sees Gale mouthing a word and she thinks it's go. So she just runs, and then she runs into this group of children who are being kept in a corral in front of the president's mansion.
Like a human shield.
Yes, that's the president's human shield, and they're surrounded by peacekeepers, and then a bunch of the silver parachutes from the
games, yeah,
drop on the kids, and the kids run for them thinking it's going to be supplies or like food or medicine or whatever, and they're bombs, and they blow up all the kids. And then
They blew up some of the kids.
they blew up kids, and then
A
some
whole
more
bunch of
people showed up.
medics. Yeah, some medics and whatever.
But it's
come running in.
confusing because at first she thinks they're the peacekeepers running in, and then she realizes it's not peacekeepers, it's medics from the
rebels.
The rebels. They start running in, and then she sees one has golden hair, and like she does this weird description. Danni, can you?
I'm
find
gonna
that?
try to find it. If you want to like pause it for a second, it'll only take me 2 seconds.
Sure. And we're back. Danny, you have that part?
Yeah, I got it.
Okay.
Okay, I'm just going to start at the beginning of the scene because that just seems like the easiest spot. A hovercraft marked with the capital seal materializes directly over the barricaded children. Scores of silver parachutes rain down on them. Even in the chaos, the children know what the silver parachutes contain. Food, medicine, gifts. They eagerly scoop them up, frozen fingers struggling with the strings. The hovercraft vanishes, 5 seconds pass, and then about 20 parachutes simultaneously explode. A wail rises up from the crowds. The snow's red and littered with undersized body parts. Many of the children die immediately, but others lie in agony on the ground. Some stagger around mutely, staring at the remaining silver parachutes in their hands as if they might have something precious inside. I could tell the peacekeepers didn't know this was coming by the way they are yanking away the barricades, making a path to the children. Another flock of white uniforms sweep into the opening, but these aren't peacekeepers. They're medics. Rebel medics. I know the uniforms anywhere. They swarm in among the children wielding medical kits. First, I get a glimpse of the blonde braid down her back. Then, she yanks off her coat to cover a wailing child. I notice the ducktail formed by her untucked shirt. I have the same reaction I did the day Effie Trinket called her name at the reaping. At least, I must go limp, because I find myself at the base of the flagpole, unable to account for the last few seconds. Then, I am pushing through the crowd, just as I did before, trying to shout her name to the roar. I'm almost there, almost to the barricade, when I think she hears me, because just for a moment she catches sight of me, her lips form my name. That's when the rest of the parachutes go off.
So, there's the scene of
That's Prim
Prim
dying.
dying.
Yeah.
I remember the first time I read this, I had to reread it because there's no like it's clear that she's talking about Prim, but if you're not paying careful attention to like the blonde braid and the ducktail shirt and stuff like that, you're kind of like, okay, so she sees a random girl she knows, and then it's like, oh no, Prim's like a medic, I guess,
I think it's another thing about like when Finnick died, where she's describing how it would be shot from a cinematic
Yes,
point.
yes, that's absolutely the way some of this book comes off, which doesn't work as well in a novel.
No.
And also, I mean, there's also like a confusing thing of like, Katniss and her friends are like deep in enemy territory.
Yeah, what are the rebel medics doing there?
And like, because the rebels had just broken through the lines while Katniss was running down the street.
But the medics aren't frontline soldiers.
Exactly, and also like, it's really confusing that Katniss and her team like are sneaking ahead past enemy lines and are getting there at the same time as
How did a medic squad beat her to Snow's castle when she was an infiltration team?
Yeah.
So it's very confusing.
Yeah.
Katniss goes
catatonic, and then the fight is resolved off page.
Yep.
She
wakes up days later.
In Snow's mansion.
It's very like Twilight callback, where Bella would often go unconscious during the climactic fight, and then it would be resolved later.
I was so disappointed that Katniss did not like square off against Snow and fire an arrow at him or something. Like, it just felt so like anticlimactic, considering it's the Hunger Games.
Yeah.
But anyway,
She is in the mansion. She starts to remember a conversation she had with Gale and Beetee, where Gale was designing this trap where it's like, okay, so first we set off one bomb, and then as their forces like close in to help them, then we set off a bigger bomb to kill them all. And then Katniss is like, wait, that's what they did to Prim. And then she starts thinking maybe it was not Snow and
she talks to President Snow.
Yeah,
and Snow says we didn't do that.
Yeah.
And later she realizes, like, because in the beginning of the book, when she sits down to have a conversation with Snow in Catching Fire, Snow's like, there's no point in lying to each other, so we're just going to be honest with each other completely. And she remembers that, and she goes, oh, shit, Snow was not lying.
Yeah, and because also Snow asks her if she thinks that Coin wouldn't do something like that, and Katniss says no, and then he said, I thought we promised never to lie to each other.
Yeah.
Katniss like, okay.
Yeah, like, and that ends up being... like, to me, another, like, a nail, like, that's the final nail in the coffin with her and Gale, because she avoids him for a while, but then they actually have a conversation where they talk about that, and she tells him, like, hey, that was your trap, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And Gale is like, I don't know. And they kind of, they go back back and forth, a very short conversation, all things considered, but she ends up being like, I would always wonder if it was his trap. And so that ends up being the reason why she can't ever be with Gale.
There's like a full page of her like wanting to stop him and wishing she could tell him it's going to be okay, but then deciding she can't because she'll never be able to let it go.
Yeah,
And
well,
I remember just thinking like, so this gets a full page, but Finnick's death gets 2 lines. But yeah, so
Hashtag Finnick deserves better.
so that Katniss is going to execute Snow with a bow and arrow in front of everybody. It's going to be the big moment of like the or the face of the rebellion executing the big bad guy, and then Katniss instead.
No. Wait. There's an important part that happens before this that influences why she does what she does. Is that Coin now, who has been appointed
Yes,
the
thank
interim
you.
prisoner.
She wants to be like, we'll do the Hunger Games, but we'll do the Hunger Games with the capital people's children.
And I want all of the current surviving victors to vote on this.
Yeah.
So that they know you chose to do this to them.
So-
and I was like, what the fuck?
The current survivors.
What the heck?
What the frick? No, the current survivors are Haymitch, Joanna, Enobaria, Katniss, and Peeta.
And yeah. And BT.
Oh, is BT alive still?
Yeah.
Yeah, BT makes it.
BT makes it.
Oh, then there must be one. Oh, and Annie. Because
Annie.
it's a odd number.
Yeah.
And so, like, the crazier ones obviously vote, yes, let's do the Hunger Games again. Katniss says yes for Prim, and it's kind of like a weird moment. But I think she's, like, directing that at Coin.
Yep.
Like-
I think she's definitely... Like, the sense I got is that she didn't actually want the games, but she...
She wanted retribution for Prim.
Yeah.
And it's... Then Haymitch just says, I'll go along with whatever the Mockingjay says. So that settles it.
Good old Haymitch.
So they're both... So that kind of is the nail in Coin's coffin. As Katniss goes to assassinate Snow, she lifts up the bow and shoots Coin instead. Then Snow laughs himself to death.
He could have been crushed by the crowd. We don't know.
It is unclear. Katniss is not sure what happens.
It also happens off screen because after she shoots Coin, someone knocks her out.
Yeah.
And she wakes up in a bedroom where she's essentially being kept under house arrest.
Yeah, it's
because
in the
she's
old
wanting,
prep area for the Hunger Games.
Yeah, and she goes through like a long quote unquote period where she's like, I'm gonna kill myself, and
A full chapter.
it might not happen now, but it's gonna happen.
Yeah, she's like, I can't kill myself this way or this way, but I can starve myself and not eat anything.
Yes.
And then at one point she decides she's going to save up all the medicine they're giving her and then like OD herself, and it's
a really dark part of the book, honestly. It was and sad too because she really doesn't know what's going on at this point. Like Haymitch does come in at some point and explains to her, well, not even really explains to her, just says, okay, your trial's over. We're going home now.
Yeah, so she's like kind of ready to die, and then Haymitch just shows up and says this, takes her back to 12, and they have a nice little epilogue of, so then for a while she's like suicidal at home and not like doesn't want to do anything, but Greasy Sai keeps coming over making her food. Peeta shows up after a while, and he also starts baking food for Katniss.
And helps her, I think, to really start mourning Prim.
Yeah.
And she snaps out of the kind of the really awful place where she's at, where she's just feeling super suicidal and like she just is done with life.
Also, Katniss is really messed up from the firebomb.
Because
she got burned
caught on
super
fire.
bad, and then they replaced a lot of her skin with like lab grown like infant skin is what she calls it.
She got skin grafts.
Yeah, she got like baby skin grafts, and she looks really weird, and she doesn't like it's super tender. She doesn't feel comfortable in it, and and then also when she gets tackled after shooting Coin, then it like wrecks all her skin grafts.
She's messed up physically and emotionally at this point. But yeah, Peeta does come back after a while, and the reason he says that he couldn't come back right away is because they wouldn't let him. But he and Haymitch and I guess Greasy Sai, they all kind of help her through it. Buttercup, who has been Primrose's cat, who has
Who is a surprisingly
hated-
major part of this book, by the way.
Yeah, he
shows
shows up
so much.
and it's very emotional, and it finally feels at this point like everything is winding down slowly, and the book ends on a very bittersweet note. It feels done, but it still kind of feels wrong,
Yeah.
but it feels like everything is over.
Yeah. And so then they have an epilogue where Peeta and Katniss get married.
They have been married, yeah. They have 2 kids.
It doesn't say whether or not they're married. They just have children.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. So they have 2 kids. Katniss, like, really didn't want to have a kid at first because, you know, the world's so messed up or whatever. But then I think after she had the kid, she was like, oh, okay, actually, this is cool. And they're like, I can't remember, like, even, they talk about the games, and the kids have, like, a vague idea that their parents were somehow involved in them, but have no, like, real thing, and Katniss, like, is really weirded out by that.
I mean, they're really young at that point, so she's kind of weirded out, I think, by the idea that eventually my kids are gonna know what I did and what we did and about the Hunger Games and all that entailed. And like they part of Katniss kind of healing and moving on involves her and eventually also Haymitch and other people making this book of all the people who died and like pictures of them and like things about them, like, you know, like what they looked like and what they liked, and just kind of like a memory book.
That's why it does end with a scrapbooking session.
Yeah, they scrapbook about all the people who died.
Yeah.
And so she's also kind of thinking about how her kids are going to see that one day, and and she describes too about how some days she can't function and sometimes Peeta has flashbacks and everything is just kind of quiet now and it's okay.
Yeah.
And it was, to me, not an altogether satisfying ending so much as it was the ending that I think was the only one that she could have.
Yeah.
The best possible ending for Katniss was this.
I do like that, like, when she realizes, so there's also a little bit, like, we've talked about the love triangle in the past. In this book, there's a part where she starts to realize, like, that Gale wouldn't be right for her because he's got so much fire in him, and he's very similar to Katniss, and he's very angry all the time. But, like, she calls Peeta, like, a little dandelion who brings, like, life with him, and, like, she's like, I want that in my life. They have a weird fight, or not a fight, but she overhears Gale and Peeta talking, where they say that they think she's going to pick whoever she can't survive without, and this, like, really bothers Katniss, but then in the end she kind of decides she can't survive without Peeta, because just the way he, like, he's not the same as her, he's almost like an opposite that, like, complements her.
He has been throughout the books always her rock.
Yeah.
Like, really just this gentle presence. And as much as I kind of dislike the way stuff ended between her and Gale, and then, like, he gets a vague reference later about, like, oh, he works in 2 now, and sometimes he's on the TV. Like,
Yeah.
what? Okay, I guess.
Oh, and she's wondering about which other girls he's kissing in District 2.
Yeah,
was a thing.
but I mean, it kind of implies, like, okay, well, Gale is gone now, moved on. But
At least it doesn't end with Gale falling in love with her and Peeta's infant daughter.
oh no.
So what are general thoughts of this book, Danny?
It was alright. The ending was too melancholy for me.
Okay.
But, you know.
Yeah, I definitely thought you'd feel that way. I remember reading it again and be like, this, no, Danny's a happy ending sort.
Yeah, I don't know. For me, it goes so off the rails once they're, like, in the city and they decide to go on their little mission, and, like, everyone dies so fast, and, like,
Yeah.
then it's just like, it feels like it's just like one crazy twist after another with, like, Prim and with
It feels like it was trying to do too much.
yes,
But she wasn't doing what she was, like, it wasn't being done well enough. Like, there was a lot she was trying to fit in the last 50 pages. the Finnick dying is like right near the end of the book.
Yeah.
And she was trying to cram all of that in less than 100 pages.
Yeah, like it's every chapter of the last, like, I'd say like 7 or 8 chapters has like this big twist at the end where it's like, oh, Finnick is dead now, or Boggs is dead, and now Katniss is in charge.
And Prim's
like,
dead, and
Prim's
then
dead,
this
and
and that,
Snow's,
and then that,
Coin's
and
dead. And
Snow got laughed to death, and then like it's there was a lot in there that should have been stretched. Like the front half of this book could have been a lot shorter,
yeah,
and the back half should have been stretched out a lot longer.
Yeah, for sure.
And
that would actually be my biggest criticism. Is like this book spends so much time on the propos, so much time on Katniss being sad in a basement, and like then they try to do like a million things in like 50 pages.
Yeah, squish the front half down a lot and stretch the back half out a lot.
Yeah, because I can understand her really wanting to emphasize Katniss's mental state at all times, but yeah, like I agree, it really just made the last part of this book really difficult.
Finnick's death could have been like a heartbreaker.
Oh,
It
yeah.
could have been
huge
and dramatic.
He could have been the Rue of this
and
book.
it could he could have been the Rue. It could have been huge, but he got killed in 3 lines.
Yeah.
And like mid-paragraph. He didn't even get his own paragraph for his death. Mid-paragraph, 3 lines, Finnick's gone.
And it's like it's not like he's unimportant in this book. Like he shows up so much.
He is a major character for 2 books.
And his wedding with Annie is like the one like kind of bright spot in the second half of this book. So it's like to do him dirty like that is just not fair.
Oh, poor Finnick.
I know.
And I feel like because it's written in such a cinematic style.
Yeah.
It doesn't translate well. Like you can see what Suzanne Collins was trying to do with like the flashbacks to Finnick's death, which would have worked fine in a movie.
Yeah.
It doesn't work from a POV of a main character.
I almost wonder, and this is like entirely speculation, but maybe she knew already that they were planning to make movies out of the Hunger Games, and so she put that kind of stuff in the 3rd book to kind of just be like, hey guys, shoot it this way. I mean, that's all the speculation. I don't know anything about that.
No, I kind of got that vibe too, and I started wondering if like did production of the first movie start while she was finishing up this book?
Production of the first movie came out 2012, so let's see when Mockingjay released. The book came out in 2010, so the first movie would have probably already been purchased for movie rights.
It would have been started the production, so that it kind of makes sense that she's finishing up the book, thinking about movie stuff, thinking about the cinematic, how things look.
Yeah.
What do you guys think about the like actual ending of like her and Peeta living in 12, everything being okay after she assassinated 2 presidents?
I'm glad they finally are leaving her the hell alone.
I know, she's used the whole time, every book.
Yeah, like, I understand, okay, yeah, she just assassinated a world leader or a country leader and kind of just, quote-unquote, got away with it, but I don't think she got away with it at all. I think she pays for it for the rest of her life.
I agree, but I also feel like it's weird that they just let her go.
I think Haymitch probably had more to do about that. I mean, they
off
also
page though.
Yeah, all off page. There was like a doctor that like a psychiatrist or something.
Yeah.
That had been helping her and treating her, and I presume that they mentioned that he spoke at her trial. I'm sure that the trial, which also would have been really nice to see, probably explained a lot of why she just kind of got, I'm assuming just, what's the word? Pardoned.
Yeah, see, I thought, like, if say, somebody, like, who had been in her corner for a while, like, if Plutarch Heavensby took over after Coin died, I would have been like, okay, it makes sense why she's being pardoned, because, like, it's somebody who's, like, got her back, and who's been, like, trying to use her to get power anyway. But it's just, like, some random person from District 13 that takes over and is like, well.
Oh, no, it was District 8. It was Peyton from District 8 who was the leader.
Oh, okay.
Who I presume saw... Like, I assume that Peyton liked her from when she was in 8.
Yeah. I actually totally forgot who it was that was the leader.
Yeah.
Because I read the name and I was like, whatever.
Some rando.
This is exactly, though, like, what I mean when I say the back half could have been extended a lot.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
You could have put all these, like, Katniss wasn't here for this. You could have done these scenes, and they would have been a lot better.
I also don't know how I feel about Peeta being... Like, because Peeta is such a non-presence in this book. Like, the first third, he's not there. The second third, he's, like, been messed up on Tracker Jacker Venom. He's not himself at all. And the very end, he's, like a broken person who's, like, afraid he's gonna hurt Katniss and, like, is constantly chained up to the wall and stuff. And it's, like, he's such a important character in the first two, and for this one, he just feels not present enough for me.
But I guess that's the thing too, is that's why it's significant that he did end up with her, because Peeta in the first two books is Peeta.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Peeta in the last book is not who he is.
Yeah.
So, you know, I
couldn't talk about this before because I didn't want to spoil the third book when we were talking about the first book.
Mm-hmm.
But this is my issue with the love triangle in this whole story.
Yeah.
Is that it never feels resolved.
No.
Gale is always like the prime dude for Katniss, and the resolution is that Gale takes off, and then Katniss is left with Peeta, who always feels like he's just there because people tell him he's supposed to be there.
Yeah.
And he never it never feels resolved. They're always they're together because they're supposed to be together.
Peeta feels like such a nice and good person, and I'm glad he's with Katniss.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that he and Katniss kind of, I don't know if you believe in that sort of thing, but I don't think they belong together. You know what I mean? I don't know who else could have ever affected Katniss enough for her to actually want to be with them.
Yeah.
To like love them or whatever. I don't think at this point that she is capable of that with just anyone anymore. And I think that had she not gone through what she did with Peeta, like there'd be no way. Like that never would have happened ever.
Yeah, I don't know. Originally I thought it would be better if like Gale had been like her like actual boyfriend, and then her like thing with Peeta in the games was a show, but then she started to feel things for Peeta, and then have it be like an actual triangle that way. But like the way it is to me does really feel forced.
Yeah.
With like, here's these two guys, neither of them are really her boyfriend, they're both her good friends who really like her, and she kind of kisses them both sometimes but isn't sure how she feels about either of them. And then at the end, there's no resolution to it. Like Gale just moves away, and Peeta's like, hey, I'm gonna plant some primrose bushes.
It never feels like the love comes to fruition.
Yeah.
It gets resolved, they're together, but there's never like
there's no romance, obviously.
No,
yeah.
it's not romantic.
I almost wish that there had been no romantic aspect to these books at all, and that the romantic angle had only been played up for the Capitol, and that like her relationship with Peeta in reality was always just a close friendship.
Her relationship with Peeta could have been good. It could have resolved better than it did.
Yeah.
But it resolved in such a melancholy way that it's not satisfying.
Well, I think Peeta like would have had to been a more major character throughout this book.
Yeah.
In order for that to work, but with him like not being himself for most of the book, it's kind of hard to have a real resolution there.
What I'm thinking, the best way this could have been done is that all the stuff in the Mockingjay, leave most of it, leave like the first like 3/4 of the book fine, but the last quarter and the extra crap that extrapolates both on the plot and also her relationship with Peeta and showing how that actually develops, give that a 4th book. Everything is great. It feels whole. I think that would have been my ideal situation here because yeah, it doesn't feel like it ever really resolved at all.
Yeah.
It just like, and now they have kids. The end.
And I have to say I agree with Danny on this one, where like normally I'm okay with a melancholy or like a bittersweet ending, but this one, like having your main hero be suicidal, locked alone in a room for like the like last 2 chapters of the book are like that was too far for even me.
Yeah,
I was kind of like, I wanted some sort of triumph. Like, I just kept thinking back to the ending of Harry Potter, and like, can you imagine if Harry Potter ended with Harry killing Dumbledore instead of Voldemort, Voldemort laughing himself to death, and then Harry being locked in Azkaban for 2 chapters before he goes and marries Peeta? Or I guess...
There may have been some lawsuits involved in that one, but yes, I can.
So it would have been a solid story. Anyway, we are way over time. Danny, where can people find us?
People can find us on Facebook, iTunes, YouTube, Podbean, Spotify, at Literary AF. There's the Literary AF Twitter account, LiteraryAFPod, and the Gmail, LiteraryAFPod@gmail.com.
Great. And tune in next week when we talk about another book.
Mystery book.
That we haven't decided on yet.
We will decide another book before I post this episode, so I'll put the next book in show notes.
Great. All right. Peace out, everybody.
Bye.